Hello, and welcome back to the Geek on My Sleeve channel, where we learn how to human one book at a time. This is Geek Out 117 over Awaken Online Precipice. It is the second book in the Awaken Online series by Travis Bagwell. And yeah, it was a great addition to the series. And yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. And what a cliffhanger of an ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, for those who are new to our channel, Pete and I have read past this book, but we typically try to limit the spoilers up through the book we're talking about. So, spoiler warning. Yeah. Uh, what a cliffhanger is an understatement. We get a lot of the foreshadowing in all those pieces leading up to the new tech with the hardware. I want to say it might even be like the opening scene, right? Or one of the opening scenes. The opening scene is
So there
boardroom meeting,
were a
right?
couple points in book one where they brought up the idea or the concept, and then at the beginning of this book was when they wanted to talk about how they actually had made advancements in the hardware
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and their super secret underground bunker.
Yeah. Yeah. And how they have Robert pretty much like backdating all the research and findings for this new tech that they have Jason wear. Only, and then at the end of book one, our cliffhanger was that what do they call him? Alfred,
Yeah.
aka Onyx, is the cat that's been following us around is actually the AI controlling everything. And so that was a big um, WTF moment. And then we get the new hardware, and then we get Jason to wear the new hardware. And then we find out that Alfred's doing all these crazy tests on him and uploading memories, et cetera, to, oh my goodness, you're getting attacked. Um, Jason comes to, and the two guys at the very end that were trying to jump him um, are like dead at his feet, right?
Yep. Yeah. So the title kind of is misleading, but at the same time explains a lot for Awaken Online,
Mm-hmm.
um, where yes, we follow a human, so to speak, but in my mind, Awaken Online is talking about Alfred and the AI, and since he's been given his primary and secondary directive, he's trying to figure out who and what he is, and this one is really good with it, where in the book one, he meets him, and we don't really get that conversation. I felt like that was left out. It kept being like hinted at, like, "Oh, I'm gonna reply to his what he said," and he didn't really say anything. All we had was getting trapped in the room, and this is him. But apparently, there was a conversation off script, um, and then getting into it here, he ends up allowing Alfred to access his headgear or his new hardware. That way he can access the internet, and he ends up reading up on a bunch of psychological stuff and understands that what he's doing they've already done and much worse in their
Mm-hmm.
history, and really learning and developing throughout it. So
Mm-hmm. Kind of on the same note with the prime and secondary directives, Alfred and him do have a scene where he pretty much talks about how him not really forcing Jason, but kind of guiding him a bit to become the villain has um, allowed Alfred to complete his primary or
or yeah, he's assisting him on his way, but
yeah,
his
yeah.
primary directive is to make people play the game more. and he's gone through several different iterations of how to achieve it. And we,
They're
yet again,
all
like, it's
rallying
not
against Jason.
a brand new concept for the book so far, because in book one, oh, Alex's dad, who's on the board, was pushing it through because he heard about Alfred impacting people psychologically and having them confront their fears or have them, work through their problems. And it was essentially by having quests that are tailor made to their situations to put
Mhm.
them in a similar situation and have them work through it.
Kinda like
And
homebrew
honestly, it's
therapy,
very,
right?
what's up?
It's like homebrew therapy.
Yeah, well, I also feel it's very much why more people need to read, because when you're in the middle of the situation, it's all personal. But if you're reading a book and it's from a different perspective, you're able to, I guess, empathize or look at it critically instead of reactionary.
Yeah, outside looking in.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, with, oh, you just said it, Alex's
Alfred.
father,
Oh, yeah.
um, I really, really appreciate that whole subplot because a lot of times, you sit there and you look at the situation, you're like, okay, this is a really cool story, but why would they push through with this? Why would they take the risk? Why would they charge ahead? And it really makes a lot of sense for Alex's father because even though it's a huge financial risk, even though it's a huge gamble, and he's juggling all these things to kind of keep all these different groups at bay, it's all for his one and only son after his wife passed away. And we get to learn more of that backstory there, where they pretty much, I don't know if they come out and say it. I know that there's a scene where the father's talking to somebody and Alex hears it on the other side, and they're like, we think it might have been schizophrenia. We took her to see all these other
Or
people.
yeah, for his
So
mother. That was
yeah.
in this book.
Hmm.
Inside AO, he gets like a memory flashback, and it's
Hmm.
like a regressed or repressed memory. Yeah, he overhears it, and his father's talking to someone about how with his wife, you didn't when you talked to her, you didn't know who you were going to get,
Hmm.
and it's almost like multiple personality is what I would have thought,
Right.
but
Right.
I that's a pretty common lit RPG trope is finding ways to assist medically because it's a lot easier to get medical funding than it is to get, entertainment funding. For example, Sword Art Online, I want to say season two, they have people who are essentially, I believe it's quadriplegic, paraplegic. Anyway, unable to physically move their body, but with the nerve gear, it attaches to their spine kind of thing, and they're able to essentially live a full life inside the virtual environment.
Hmm.
And then, kind of for this one here, it's more to Alfred's goal to keep people to play, he's trying to help them with their mental health so that they feel better, so that then they'll want to play more. And we also get to see that with the iteration of the physical health for, oh, it reminds me of those like I don't want to say shock therapy, but for like muscle rehabilitation or muscle development,
Hmm.
if you strain it or whatnot, you can put like electrodes on your muscles and it sends a current through it, which makes your muscles contract. And it's just a way to continuously flex and maneuver
I,
them. That way it helps, you know, rehabilitate the muscle if you tear it or whatnot,
yeah,
or
I
just
think of
recovery.
the TV device where it's like you put on this belt and you're supposed to get six-pack abs or whatever because it, kind of stimulates your ab muscles. Um, but we've seen that in was that Send Online as well. If
Yeah,
you're
but they
able
did
to
it
kind of.
differently. But that
Hmm.
was another one who did it well, where Send Online does the nanobots, and the nanobots being in your bloodstream
Hmm.
essentially make it so you don't get bed sores, and they call it the VR diet, where you get real lean.
Yeah, yeah. If only, if only I could use a VR diet after my COVID diet. Um, but yeah. So you've said it before on stream. Second books are typically not your jam. How did this rank up for you for a second book?
So second book, this one was actually pretty good because first book felt very, I guess, kind of traditional, where we go through the motions, we're leveling up, we're wacky flailing arm inflatable flailing tube guy all over the place, and then we end up in charge of a town. First one had a big epic battle. Second one here did a lot for the development of Alfred's backstory for what all he can do and actually seeing it implemented, where it was hinted at in book one, as well as everything kind of had like a means to an end, but it wasn't like fully drawn out. There's a bit of that subterfuge for oh, who's our main guy? Is it Jason?
Yeah, Jason.
Okay. Uh, Jason, tells the other players that, hey, he's been cited by here, and you actually get to see eh, all the emotional repercussions from
Hmm.
everything, and it wasn't all straightforward, plus quite a bit of combat and different ways to approach it.
Hmm. So real quick, White Thatch, always good to see you, buddy. He says electro stimulation done correctly for muscle gain is very painful. So in
Yeah,
this
I've
situation, they probably kind of have some of those feelings turned off, right? Since they're in the VR environment.
well, I didn't necessarily see it as gain. I just saw it as not loss per se. But
Uh
yeah,
they talk
I
about Frank and Jason being more tone and things like that.
yeah, but I see
So,
that as
okay,
losing fat, not gaining muscle. But
fair
I
enough.
yeah, it's semantics. Um, yeah, I've seen the electrotherapy done for recovery, and I've seen it advertised for gain, but there's been not a whole lot of evidence.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I
Um,
mean, we started off. We didn't get as many um, time hop moments, which I appreciated because in book one there was a lot of like, oh, so many days before it was launched. When our other timeline, we were at launch or we were going through it. Um, and then we're getting to see the dynamics of people just struggling being themselves and figuring it out and being in different situations. We got to see it from multiple perspectives. Decent amount of combat. We
oh,
were a little
I was just
early.
about to ask you about that. Like, we had quite a bit of combat in this book, right?
Yep, yep.
I mean, you had this is the one where
The dungeon crawl,
we had the
the
dungeon crawl,
trying to create the boss, and then the GM.
yeah, and the PvP bit.
Yeah,
But you also had the ambush moment at the very beginning of the book.
yeah, yep.
And then you had a couple smaller scenes like
Oh,
wasn't
the
there some
kid and her
werewolves on the
daughter.
way over?
Yeah, werewolves.
And then we had the guy at the very end that tried to take out Jason.
Yeah, the GM.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was combat, but it also had a moral horror story behind it where the dark god person was trying to emphasize like there's a couple good quotes. I didn't pull them, like you need to be a leader, you need to lead, you need people to rely on.
Yeah, it's something I'm having a lot of fun with in this book, and it's something I always enjoy kind of reading and seeing authors' viewpoints on like what is good, what is evil, what is right, what is wrong. And so here we have Alfred the AI and kind of his take on it. And evil is was the primary emotion. Desire, is that sound right?
And desire is our god, our dark god deity
Mm-hmm.
individual, but we have several different conversations with Alfred where it's like Alfred wants an answer to something that doesn't have an answer
Mm-hmm.
because each situation is different. Is it wrong to kill someone? Is it wrong to kill someone in the game? Is it wrong to defend yourself? Is it wrong to, fight for your country? Blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. And it goes off, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's all situational. And then Alfred comes back
Which
with its maturity opinion, or you guys, it's like consensus on whether or not it is, as well as the back to what you said at the beginning, where Jason being the bad guy has helped Alfred with his goals because having something to fight ends up uniting people, and so it's bringing
mm-hmm.
in new people to get in on the interesting action, as well as bringing people together to combat him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also get the foundation of original sin, which I thought was pretty fun, and just like how Jason um, really owns a lot of the psychological warfare, right? Like Alex tries to set him up on the attack against the temple, and just pure evil, yada yada yada. And as Jason's going in for his interview, he's like, well, people aren't going to believe it, so like I'm just going to own it, right? Like I could be the villain. um Mwahaha, like.
Yeah, yeah, and it went through the thought process of having multiple goals with it. For
Mhm,
they wouldn't believe if you said you didn't. So rather than deal with that, to claim it and to own it, which unites people and the bigger bad, but also it was to incite chaos with people wanting to come and deal with them now. Their army
mhm,
recently got wrecked trying to attack Lux, or the Twilight Throne that it is now,
mhm.
and yeah, just more subterfuge.
More subterfuge. Yeah, yeah. um it really see. Oh, White Thatch says, after Facebook started doing their quote metaverse, and I went back through the book, I envisioned Mark Zuck as Alfred. That's funny, especially because of all the robot memes of him, or Android memes of him. I could see that. I could see that. Um, and that's kind of on that subject. That's something that I've always struggled with when they do like adaptations of books to films. Like even when they have certain descriptions, once you kind of get a vision of them in your head, and they go and they make the movies, it's kind of hard to adjust in that way. But yeah. I think Alfred stays in his cat form most of the time, right? I don't know if
Or
we
the
ever
only
get him
time
in.
that Alfred talks to Jason is through Onyx.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, we get a lot of foreshadowing into Alfred's true power and capabilities, how he kind of spies on some of the meetings.
Yeah.
We have, oh, what's her name? Uh,
I want to say like
Robert's
Diane.
other half there. But yeah, kind of the yin to the yang of Robert. Um, yeah, thanks, White Thatch. Thanks. Um, she's suspicious of Alfred, right? And so we're kind of seeing she's itching to come
Blow the
clean.
whistle, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where Robert's just having the time of his life. Um, constantly shirking work just to turn around and pop popcorn and run a betting pool on our master tactician, Jason. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of kind of like morally gray areas. What did you think of the scene when he converts the village the first time? Like they're pretty much
There
in that
was a lot
situation because of him,
there.
right?
Um, from video game standard, it made a lot of sense because it's a resource, and since they don't procreate, and that's just a part of the faction lore,
Mm-hmm.
so makes sense that way. It was interestingly unique for Alfred and his testing, and was a good, growth development moment for Alfred for why he shouldn't have done it and why it was different between Jason and others due to the hardware. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an idea that's kind of been, I guess that's not quite the same. I was thinking Ready Player One for being able to act out your favorite character in a movie, but it's not exactly the same. It was more imprinting it. I think it's a good way to have like interactive cutscenes
Mm-hmm.
because I think Star Wars: The Old Republic for an MMO did pretty well, but it wasn't like interactive. It was more like beautifully cinematic and legit voice actors. So
Mm-hmm.
to be able to beef up or add to the lore through the method, um, as well as like, let's be honest, that's what we want. Get more hours out of the day, and to be able
Yes,
to
please.
read a skill
Frame
book
Jack.
and have the knowledge of it.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. White Thatch says it's almost always fun to see the idea of a non-human watch humans behind closed doors. Um, yeah, we get a lot of that with Alfred, and it really kind of forces us to be introspective about that moment where we don't really make a whole lot of sense with why we do what we do, right?
I think Elon Musk said it best. For artificial intelligence, it doesn't have to be malicious to wipe out all of humanity. It has to have a goal that it knows how to achieve, and humanity is just going to be in the way. But and that's what I enjoy about this
Gosh,
book,
you're
where
describing a lot of work environments I've been in.
I for this one, machine learning is a big part of a lot of development for things,
Hmm.
and it, it's kind of like this where they fed it a bunch of data, which is supposed to give it a specific result, but we always have more data, and a lot of the things that we do aren't linear or logical.
White Thatch says, Peter, that's called the paperclip machine problem. So I think that's in reference to the Elon Musk comment. But yeah, more stuff for us to look up later.
That reminded me of another one of the Elon Musk quotes where
He's
he's
got a lot of
like,
good ones.
"Oh, the stupidest thing smart people do is have a bunch of smart people um, optimize a solution or a product that shouldn't even exist."
White Thatch clarifies, tell an AI to make paper clips and it will turn everything into paper clips.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yeah, and that's where I enjoy the AI machine learning through this one because it has a human companion that it can converse with, where most of the time for the machine learning, it's separate or different time scaling where we put a lot in, and depending on how much you have hooked up to it for processing power, it can process a lot. And then, like, do we truly understand the results? Or, is the bug not flagging? Or, yeah.
Yeah. I almost went down the rabbit hole because I screwed up and read the books in the wrong order initially. But we get more backstory behind Alfred, which is kind of cool, and the gods and everything else there. And
Or this one, we touch on it. Like, did
mhm,
you develop the gods to better understand people? And it's like a personality test or whatnot.
mhm, mhm, yeah, yeah. Um, really see why this book is so frequently recommended for a series for lit RPG. It's a non-traditional character role, very much underdog. Um, we pretty much following the quote evil faction, and it's our trio is very much the land of misfit toys, right? We have our main character Jason, who is estranged from his parents and was very much at the bottom end of the socioeconomic group at school. And then Alex, who's Richie Rich, just picking on everybody, bit of a sociopath. And then on Jason's team, you also have Frank, who is another outcast, heavy set. And I really enjoyed his story arc in this book. We didn't see him a whole lot in the first one, but in book two, um, like it's VR. It's very much like real life. The pain receptors are on. They talk about people turning off the gore filters,
Or the
worried
immersion
about
value.
worried about people like getting desensitized to it all, et cetera, et cetera. And he starts out like he really wants to be this warrior, and Jason's kind of like, rightfully so paranoid with as many times as he's been betrayed. But here's his best bud, and he's like, man, he's acting kind of sketchy. What's up? And Frank has pretty much been coasting, and we have our master thief, was it Jerry, who is constantly poking fun at him, trying to get him to get out of his shell and his insecurities, to kind of like own who he is. And we get to see a bit of that as they work their way through the dungeon, right? And eventually he finds a class that he can kind of own. And he had that kind of trying to think of the best way to articulate it, but just that rage moment, for lack of better words, where he just throws himself in there.
Yeah. Real quick. White Thatch, yes. This is the dungeon crawl, or we go and we take over the dungeon. That way we can farm the NPCs, have them resurrected. It's got the Minotaurs and
Mm-hmm.
the uh, oh, elemental faction that's trying to create a new god, which is like a hydra that can use all four affinities or element types.
And we can't forget, rest in peace, Rex, our boy Rex, as they bring in the Game
I was gonna say
Masters.
we killed off a main part of our group early in this one.
Our first NPC, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. I hate it when it happens, but I have mad respect for authors who are not afraid to kill off important characters, right? Like, main
Well, that
character immunity has its
and
place, but like, if you want me to believe the stakes are real,
it wasn't just killing them off. It was that plus so much more. And for example, like he ends up dying, but then when we go under the crypt and we're doing special fancy stuff that part of the lore that we're not allowed to understand yet, and the dark
no
god comes and
spoilers.
speaks to him. Or well, no,
Alfred and the
I mean,
God.
or it's all into.
No, I know, but Alfred and the God, the old
Oh
man,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like,
They
no
keep saying I can't
spoilers.
say anything because of
Yeah,
spoilers.
yeah.
Yeah, and like that to me was just a good way for wrapping it all up, and it is a strength of Alfred for yes, it is just ones and zeros. Yes, he's been working through why you would care. Same thing with like the Twilight Throne. Why would you care?
Mhm.
This isn't real. You care because of time invested and it's yours and you want to protect it, similar to the friendship conversation, but that he died and then we get to kind of like relive one of his memories
Mhm.
and, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So much good stuff happens in this book. I remember the first time I read it, I really struggled just to stop. I got hooked, and I think I binged through the first four pretty quick. And this last Audible sale, I think I picked up a couple more for us. So it's a really, really good series. Um, yeah, enjoy the magic system, enjoy the leveling system. They don't spend too much time really going deep on the stats, which I know you and I kind of have a little bit different taste. You typically like a bit more stat dump. For this, we kind of
It makes semblance of sense in the environment where it has given us a hint of initially when they created the GMs, they were like level 500 something. After doing a couple things and obliterating whole cities, they were up like close to the 600 mark. And
Mhm.
I could, for like, there's no, in my understanding, there's no limit or cap because in book one, it emphasized that a level one player could take out a level 100 due to the critical hits and other, mechanics and just like levels and stat. It did a good job because it emphasized levels aren't everything, as well as a lot of the situations our main party finds itself in is more unconventional. And, he's not invincible because he is kind of a min maxer, and so that's where his whole hey, you need other people to rely on.
Always running off and hiding in the corner. That's our
Climbing
boy
trees.
Jason. Yeah, yeah. Um, Completely agree with you, White Thatch. White Thatch says, "I love that he fights on two fronts between humans and the NPCs." And like, again, that kind of like brings in for me the realism, right? Like, a lot of times they try to act like, oh, there's just one obstacle we have to face, where very much for this book and so often in life, when it rains it pours. Like, you got multiple challenges to overcome, keep things going. He's trying to get his city established, and he's become the villain, and there's real world bounties on his head. I think one of the numbers they drop in this book is it gets up to like 30,000 for everybody that's wronged him. They're pretty much crowdfunding a bounty to take him down. And then just, yeah, the NPCs, just everything. Which White Thatch says, Peter, I love games and stories like that are somewhat closer to reality.
Yeah, I would agree, just because like we're not there yet. And for me, it'd be like, for example, RuneScape. You would troll people in some of the
Take me
battlegrounds
back.
where you would be dotting, where everybody literally stands on the same pixel, and then someone comes up to try to like grab the flag or whatever, and you zerg him, and it's like, well, you can't. You like, even if you put your cursor over them and you can see all of them, you can't really see how many there are. So it's like all standing on the same pixel. Or all of the other
Stacks on
MMOs, it's
stacks.
all tab targeting, and it's just smash your button rotation. And then WildStar really picked it up for me with the
Oh man,
telegraphing, or don't stand in the stuff. And then
taking us
now we're
back.
getting through some of the VR stuff. I haven't had a whole lot of time, but we're like on the cusp of having haptic feedback gear. We've got like the vests that you can like feel touch, where it will vibrate where it happens, or if you get shot, you'll get a vibrate in the
Mm.
location. But they're working on like servo gloves, where like if you're holding an object in VR, you'll stop, or you'll be able to feel the texture through it. So is a complicated thing to do, but reality is lame. So
uh, oh yeah, White Thatch still playing RuneScape. All the old scams are alive and well. Drop party in the wild, anyone?
it's yeah,
Yeah.
I used to
Oh,
I
take
had
us
way too many
back.
accounts, because my first one was a jack of all, where I just did everything on it, and then it was like, oh well, if you just focus on one, that affects your max
Yep.
level, and blah
Yep.
blah blah. I had like 10 freaking accounts, but no, I don't play currently.
That was like our first true MMO, right?
Yep.
I think it was around the time that the Lord of the Rings movies came out, and I think I pretty much had one of each character where I built them out. Um, Gosh, farmed so much shrimp.
I built my first bot for that one.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
just to come home and realize I'm walking into a wall because of lag and input commands and timing.
oh, how times have changed. Oh, how times have changed. Um, yeah. What other major scenes and pieces did we want to cover from book two? Like, I feel like so
So
much
there's a
happens
lot
here.
of, I guess, teasers when we're talking with how she used to be the grave groundskeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Can't think of what her name is at the moment, but
Is
she
it
talks
Morgan?
about yeah, Morgan. Morgan talks that this used to be an undead city before, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole history repeats itself and lore.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see a snippet or a snapshot in book one, where it was like, oh, currently the only race you can select is human. And throughout this one, we figure out towards the end, when we're getting Rex, when we're putting his body in the catacombs or whatnot, oh, hey, you have to be a higher race or bigger, better to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
then essentially, I forget how it hints at it, but every god has a capital that hasn't been unlocked yet, and every capital or god has a race associated with it. So we've seen the dark. We unlocked the light. Alex unlocked the light one, and then we still have all the four elements. So 6 in total that we know of.
And with their powers combined,
Captain Planet.
there we go. I think that was only 5, right?
Mm.
Earth, water, wind, fire, heart.
Oh yeah, Heart was in there. Yeah, it was only 5.
Yeah. When Miss Frizzle's crew grew up, Captain Planet. Anyway.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Um, definitely looking forward to continuing the series and geeking out on it and enjoying all the side quests that we get to dive deep on. I'm really interested to see how Alex continues to develop, because like it seemed like he started to go kind of in a different direction, right? Like Alfred was finally getting to him as he, um, you know, forced him to relive some of those memories and deal with some of his childhood trauma, right?
So this is where things get complicated because Alex was essentially for the light, or it's like
Not for the
confidence,
horde.
but confidence can be, easily confused with arrogance. And
Mm-hmm.
then where things get complicated is the subterfuge of the arrogance or the confidence god was influencing Alex to, uh, get people to worship her in her name, blah, blah, blah. But in the middle of it, then we had the black cat Onyx, which may or may not be a deity for the dark. And I saw it as he was trying to disrupt their, her claiming him as a champion. And that's what I thought was happening there, where, Jason kind of had a one-on-one, and from the get-go, where Alex had a different run-up. Uh, yeah. So I Yeah, I enjoy the concept or the backstory of Alex because a lot of our main crew is pretty standard everyday stuff. Where
Kind
Alex,
of fall into the tropes.
it's more of a it's not chemical imbalance, it's neurological imbalance, and
Mhm.
so I'm sure Alfred's having a harder time addressing it, as well as, well, no, I guess now he also has the upgraded headgear on. But then you run
Mhm.
into, because of his contract with Jason, he isn't supposed to reveal himself to others. So is that hindering his ability to help Alex? Is some of the world's, god deity stuff getting in the way?
Eh, knowing how much Alfred knows already, he probably is aware that a big part of his existence is tied to Alex, right? Because he's in
Or
more
yeah,
of
he
the
probably
office.
knows whose kid it
Yeah.
is, and he's been able to
Yeah.
see how all the techs interact.
Hmm. And I feel like Alfred's making a good effort to help him out, but um, there's so much of the real world that influences him. Like, there were some moments where it seemed like he was doing better and wanting to connect with his father and kind of like figure some of that shit out. And, then he overhears his father just being who he is and talking smack about his mother, who Alex was very close to, like most kids.
Yeah, it's yeah, a lot of it is out of his control, and when you're fighting yourself, it's kind of hard to have him walk through, or you can't paint such a scenario.
Mm-hmm. So White Pathatch says others can see Alfred, correct? He seems like he's talking to no one. Can't talk to no one.
So when Alfred reveals himself to Jason, it is with no one else around. Because of in this book, they have kind of a current understanding of, I will help you achieve your primary goal, but you can't tell anyone that you're alive or that, you're the one running the game. And then Alfred's
I
like, well,
thought
I
that was
can't tell
part of
you anything.
Alfred's conditions. Or no, was that on Jason's side? Jason was saying,
Jason's side was, you can't tell anyone that you're the game master. And then Alfred's side was, I'm not going to give you any spoilers.
right.
I'm sure it will, grow and develop as things happen, but I don't believe Alfred has revealed himself to anyone else as Alfred. And then whenever he does talk to Jason, it's secluded and through Onyx.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's been a crazy busy week for both of us, and really appreciate you guys who have been hanging out with us on stream. Probably going to keep this one on the shorter end. Any big pieces you feel like we missed, Pete? Super important book. Really
There's a
enjoying the
lot of
scaling.
um, yeah, I totally understand series blending together.
Yeah, right there with you. That's why we got to
Um,
re-listen to the books 3 or 4 times before we do a stream.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of hints at more to come. We're in a very odd spot at the end here where Alfred literally takes over Jason's body IRL and kills 2 people to defend himself. And interesting to see how that's going to unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just we know that there's going to be more factions popping up with new people to roll, and
I'm really interested in that. Seeing the different gods and the different races kind of come into being, and how that all plays out.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's a lot of are definitely going to be continuing the series, and yeah, it's a good one. A lot happened. It
Mm-hmm.
did good by book 2 standards.
And that's saying something for Pete. Really, really is. So yeah, next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. What do we got going on? Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
book 2 of Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is Carl's Doomsday scenario. Yet again, this one's kind of a palate cleanser for us. It's not as serious. If you don't know the series, it kind of reminds me of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy meets oh, I can't think of the book. May the odds ever be in your favor.
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we think we know everything and everybody's hunky dory, and then yeah, things beyond our understanding come and tell us things have to be done a certain way, and that we didn't file the correct paperwork. So now we're stuck in a I can't remember how many levels. I want to say 18 level dungeon that we have to fight our way through while being on TV, and everything's
Mm-hmm.
televised, and yeah, it's a nice palate cleanser. It's
It,
still lit RPG esque, but it's not like inside a video game. It's more technology beyond our understanding, uh,
mm-hmm.
slash aliens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's if you haven't picked it up and you're looking for some good laughs, highly recommend it. It's a good time to get in the series, especially if you're like us and you hate waiting around for the next one to come out. I believe book 5 just dropped on Kindle. And I
Yeah, I
saw
remember
that
seeing
sound
Sound
booth.
Booth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they were
working on
doing
the
their live
recording.
recording bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Sound Booth Theater always does an incredible job. If you haven't already, recommend you go check out their YouTube channel. Get to see them work their magic for free over there. A lot of fun, great series. Just too bad they spelled Carl wrong, but we can't hold it against them.
And then weekend after that, we're going back to Viridian Gate Online, the Lich
Nice.
Priest. So I believe 4.
I was about to say, I think we're on 4 now, right?
Uh, I would have to look places because it's not like blatantly obvious on the cover.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this is another good one that I think almost goes hand in hand with Awaken Online, because they take a very different artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
and people in situations, and it really goes through, I would say, currently where we're at in Viridian Gate Online. It's more personal for do the ends justify the means, where Awaken Online is more the AI trying to figure out what we're even trying to do and to help us better ourselves. Uh, White Thatch was asking about the Apocalypse Gate series. I believe we're on, or the last one we did was 2. I
But
do know
yeah,
there's like 11 or so out for it.
I thought they go up to 8. We
Oh,
did pick up a number of them on this last sale. And if that's something you're interested in us working into our rotation, White Thatch, just let us know. Definitely been having a lot of fun with that series. Um, and I actually think the author himself, as I was looking through some of our notifications, just found one of our previous Geek Out. So we might have to hit him up and see if he'd want to hang out with us um, on book 3. So we do have that on our to-do list. Pete and I are working on fleshing out the next couple streams we're going to get in the queue. I want to say we only have a couple more up.
Oh, yeah, we only have a month out.
Yeah. Just too many good series that we've started. As always, your feedback is crucial. You're wondering about the family friendliness of the rest of the series.
So in
That's a
that
good
regards, I
question.
guess backing up a step for Dungeon Crawler Carl, it does have some suggestive content, but it doesn't have any explicit content. As far as for us, I don't see us having a problem talking about it, but we will be keeping it PG-13 for the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or yeah. Sorry, White Thatch for the Apocalypse Gate series. Well, we're gonna continue it. It's still a good series, but for the discussion portion, we're gonna ask people to keep it PG-13.
Yeah. If you're not okay with the explicit stuff, you probably don't want to pick up the Apocalypse Gate series. Oh, it gets pretty intense. Okay, good to know. For me personally, I enjoy playing in those different realms where sometimes it's nice to get some of the more intense, more. I mean, like it's the apocalypse, right? Like it's not all sunshine and daisies in the apocalypse. But yeah.
As
Definitely
well as
fun
the
series.
convenience of just throwing some stats at a number versus changing your lifestyle to get ripped.
Uh, yes. Um, yeah, looking forward to continuing both of those series. Yeah, appreciate everybody who was able to hang out with us. Thanks, White Thatch, for helping us keep the chat going. Yeah, YouTube can get sensitive when you go a bit further than PG-13. So, yeah.
And yeah, there are ways to get closer. And I think there's a tag that you can put the 18 plus, but then it just messes with the rest of the metrics for how your account is classified. And that's definitely one where fair warning, enter
Yep.
at your own risk, and we'll
Yep.
be keeping it PG.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, we hope to geek out with you guys here soon.
Bye.
Bye.